Hello, my name is Tasha, and I have created this PowerPoint presentation to discuss an education matter our country has encountered in the last few years that I feel needs to be addressed. The title of this presentation is called Back to the Drawing Board for No Child Left Behind. For those of you who are not familiar with the No Child Left Behind program, it's an act that was signed by George Bush back in September of 2001 as an attempt to close the education gap among the children of today, particularly minorities and those from low-income households. President Bush had believed that schools were not holding themselves accountable to achieve high standards. Therefore, this program was implemented to help weed out qualifying schools for federal funding. The problem with this program is the students in need of academic assistance are struggling more now to succeed as their schools fail to meet the No Child Left Behind adequate yearly progress goals, measured by the standardized testing. Because of this, their schools have lost their funding. High expectations for each school to obtain 100% proficiency in reading and math by 2014 have now pushed teachers to shift their focus away from rounding the child's knowledge base in all pertinent areas of study and focusing more on just what's on the test. With the implementation of No Child Left Behind, states were required to hire only educators who could provide competence in the subjects they taught, and by 2013, all teachers were required to be labeled as highly qualified in order to teach in a federally funded school district. In addition, the use of mandatory standardized testing as used to monitor academic yearly progress has dampened a lot of students' ability to utilize divergent thinking. Divergent thinking was something that we learned early on. It's a creative thought process that allows you to come up with multiple solutions to a given problem. This problem solving sparked creativity as a young adult. Unfortunately, it appears that in most cases the government has failed to remember that no two children learn the same way or thrive academically in the same environment. The idea that all schools should be 100% proficient is simply unrealistic for this very reason. Now let's take a quick look at what has happened in our children's classrooms since 2002, when the establishment of No Child Left Behind was set in motion. In order for schools to keep their federal funding, they began to lower their standardized testing benchmarks so that more students could pass. It's kind of called cheating. These tests, along with teachers' highly qualified requirements, received adjustments to fit each of their state's needs. Again, we're cheating the system to get ahead. Unfortunately, many schools that didn't lower their standards and who were once considered high-achieving schools ended up being the ones who struggled because they couldn't achieve the high percentages either. All these schools failing to meet standards, they're now faced with spending more money that they don't have to send their students elsewhere. In most cases, the students that we're shipping out to other schools are the ones who scored highly in the standardized test in the first place. And then meanwhile, the students who are staying back and who need help are now suffering from the lack of funding for their schools to provide them the tools that they need. So my solution to the unsuccessful use of No Child Left Behind is this. It needs to be taken back to the drawing board. Students need highly qualified teachers who understand that consistency and compassion are both important components in education in young children. The use of universal curriculum and lesson plans, along with positive reinforcement and one-on-one assistance for those students in need, would significantly improve academic proficiency. The purpose of No Child Left Behind was indeed commendable, but school funding and student academic proficiency shouldn't be measured by standardized testing and yearly outcomes. Rather, it should be based on an in-classroom performance, progress, and overall test scores of curriculum used throughout the school year. Taking into consideration that no two children learn the same, students who struggle to learn in a typical classroom setting should be offered other avenues of learning. The bottom line is, as long as schools are showing some kind of improvement, they should still be able to reap the benefit of federal funding in order to continually support the education of their students. If the No Child Left Behind Act were to be reconfigured in a way that removed the idea behind 100% proficiency and focused more on just progress, I feel teachers would be able to invest more time in their students' education and would be less concerned with meeting the standards and meeting the deadline before the tests were taken. Children would be able to attain more one-on-one assistance and perhaps succeed even better in their classrooms. Loosening up the reins on 100% proficiency for federal funding for schools and basing funding off overall improvement would allow schools to keep the money that they get within their classrooms rather than spend it elsewhere busing students to other schools or paying for after-school help. This financial stability within the school districts would allow more tools to be accessed by the students and improve the overall academic success rate. So, summing up, No Child Left Behind Act of 2001, as presented by President Bush, is in dire need of revamping if we wish for the children of today to become successful adults in the future. It all starts in the classroom, and I propose that No Child Left Behind adjust its guidelines so that instead of requiring all schools to be 100% proficient in reading and math by 2014, it requires that each school shows adequate levels of improvement, yes, but regardless of percentage. In all academic categories is what should be looked at. High percentages of improvement, however, in in reading and math, I do believe should be rewarded. It should be what qualifies schools for teacher bonuses or classroom bonuses, in addition to the federal funding. In addition to this, I propose that schools continue to require highly qualified teachers in the classroom, but that these teachers seek continuing education on a yearly basis, updating with the most current curriculum and teaching methods. These courses should also educate teachers to how to properly reach out to each one of their students on a more personal level, guiding them in their academic progress so that all students are receiving the help that they need. So I know this was a quick PowerPoint, so if anyone has any questions, please feel free to give me a call. My phone number is there at the bottom of the screen. Thanks so much for listening.